Welcome to 6 Degrees of Wiki, a podcast where two sisters find the 6 degrees of separation between Wikipedia articles that don't seem to have anything in common. I'm Rosanna.
And I'm Nikki. Today we'll fall into a Wikipedia spiral where Rosanna has just 6 rounds to figure out how the first article could possibly be connected to the last, while learning all sorts of peculiar facts along the way. Let's get started. This month, we've gone from Leonardo da Vinci to Venus.
Round 1.
Today, we're spiraling from the planet Venus to Diamond.
Ooh, fancy.
Mm-hmm. Venus is the second planet from the sun. It's named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty, and it's a very bright object in the sky. Diamond is a gemstone. It is very popular for engagement rings and wedding bands. It's pretty expensive, and it's very pretty. Rosanna, do you see any commonalities between Venus and diamonds?
Well, I feel like at some point in the past we talked about it raining diamonds on a planet, like I want to say Jupiter maybe?
Yeah.
So I think there's some sort of nature and like materials.
Natural phenomenon?
Yeah, things that come from planets like including Earth and Jupiter and possibly Venus. So that's what kind of connection I see right now.
Well, let's learn more about Venus the planet. We learned some last week. I'll tell you a little more today. It is the second brightest natural object in the night sky, after the moon, as you'd expect. It's bright enough to cast shadows at night, and often visible to the naked eye at night, and sometimes visible to the naked eye during the day. 80% of the Venusian surface, that's really fun to say, Venusian, is covered by smooth volcanic plains, which sounds really hard to walk on.
Really? Venus sounds hard to walk on, Nikki?
It's also super hot, so you know if you're even alive by the time you make it. So the rotation of Venus is also really interesting. It's the only planet in the solar system to rotate clockwise.
Really?
The sun sets in the east and rises in the west.
Oh, that's weird.
There's other weird stuff about the rotation. It's incredibly slow. Earth rotates at about 1,037 miles per hour. Venus rotates at just over 4 miles an hour. It also looks like Venus used to have a moon, but the impact that happened that actually caused it to rotate the opposite way, they think made the moon gradually spiral inward until it collided with Venus.
Oh my gosh.
So Venus ate its moon, pretty much. Interesting fact about Venus. The astronomical symbol for it is the same that we use to represent the biology of the female sex. It's a circle with a small cross beneath it.
Round 2.
Rosanna,
Yes.
what do you think the next degree is between Venus and Diamond?
All right. I'm going to go with the obvious path because
Okay.
it's obvious.
It is.
Venus is named after the goddess Venus.
Yes.
The goddess Venus is the goddess of love. When people fall in love, they get engaged. When people get engaged, they give each other diamonds.
That makes a lot of sense, Rosanna.
Thank you. So, my guess is Venus, the goddess.
So you think we're doing this thing that we have done before, where we went from the planet to the god?
I don't know why we wouldn't.
Do you think I'm that predictable, Rosanna?
Well, every time I go against what I think you're going to guess, you actually did guess what I thought you were going to guess, so I'm just going to go with it this time.
Okay. Your guess of Goddess Venus is incorrect. The next degree is night sky.
Night sky?
I know, that's a surprising thing to have an article about, right?
That sounds like 2 articles, Nikki. I think you're cheating.
The night sky, which is a real article,
Okay.
Refers to the nighttime appearance of celestial objects like stars, planets, the moon, things that are visible in a clear sky between sunset and sunrise. The ancient belief of astrology is usually based on the belief that relationships between celestial objects influence events on Earth or convey information, tell the future.
Mm-hmm.
The scientific studies of celestial objects that are visible at night is called observational astronomy. There are lots of different natural light sources in the sky. Moonlight, starlight, also something called air glow, which is a faint emission of light by just the planetary atmosphere. Also, the aurora borealis. Long ago, farmers used to use the status of the night sky as a calendar to figure out when to plant their crops, which seems pretty smart for... I shouldn't say seems smart for farmers. That's ridiculous. Farmers are pretty intelligent to know what they're doing. I mean,
for the
I'm not
time.
sure I would figure that out. Yes, for the time, because they didn't know.
They didn't know how things affected each other as much.
Yes.
They didn't have the science.
Thank you for making me not sound like such a jerk. I apologize.
You are prejudiced against farmers. You're a pharmacist.
Our ability to see things in the night sky is affected heavily by light pollution, which I'm sure you've experienced in a city versus out in the country. So there's light from cities called urban sky glow. Other things causing light pollution, the moon.
Oh.
Yeah, it has historically stopped astronomical observation because it just increases the amount of ambient brightness in the sky. So you can't see as many stars.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. An interesting fact about the night sky. In ancient times, they assumed that stars were equal distances away from the Earth because they're too far away to offer any sort of depth clues.
Sure.
Stars that are visible are anywhere from blue, hot, to red, cold, which is the opposite of your faucet. But because they have such small points of light, most of them look white because they stimulate the rod cells in your eyes without triggering the cone cells in your eyes.
What?
That's how you handle different colors.
Stars are white because of our eyes, not because of themselves.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I did not even have any idea that that was true.
I know!
Round 3.
Rosanna?
Yes.
What's the next degree since it didn't go on your love path?
All right. It still can.
Okay.
Now, you gave me a lot of good stuff to guess from, including sunset, moonlight. Sunset and moonlight are like romantic times of the day.
It's true.
However, you also said aurora borealis. And
I did.
Recently, when I was talking about the aurora borealis, you said that it was really interesting and you wanted to learn more about it. So my guess is aurora borealis.
Your guess is incorrect. The next degree, which I'm surprised you didn't pull out, is astrology.
Oh my god, I had that written down, but I was like, no, because why would she talk about that? Because... oh my gosh. Oh, that's frustrating.
Astrology is the study of movements and the relative positions of celestial objects. It's used as a means of divination to get information about both human affairs and terrestrial events. The study of astrology has been dated back to at least the 2nd millennium BCE.
Wow.
So 4,000 years ago. And there are tons of cultures that have considered astronomical events important, like the Indians, Chinese, and Maya. And they have made elaborate systems for predicting events based on their celestial observations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the Mayan calendar and their 2012 apocalypse.
Yes.
That's something that was predicted based on astrology. Western astrology is actually one of the oldest astrological systems that's still in use.
Really?
So not the oldest overall, but it's the one that's still around. So it can trace its roots back to 19th to 17th century BCE in Mesopotamia.
Wow.
And from there, it spread to ancient Greece and Rome and the Arab world, and eventually to Europe. Western astrology is what is associated with horoscopes and celestial bodies having an influence on people's personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to find out that through most of history, astrology was considered a scholarly tradition and believed quite a bit. It was really common in academic circles. It was closely related to astronomy, alchemy, meteorology, and medicine. And one of those things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, along came the scientific method.
Unfortunately.
And disproved astrology.
Darn that hard science.
Yep. It showed that astrology has no scientific validity or explanatory power. That being said, about 25% of Americans, Canadians, and English people say they continue to believe that stars and planet positions actually affect their lives. So, interesting fact. Galileo practiced as a court astrologer for a time.
Ooh.
There was an astrologer and astronomer named Ptolemy living in Alexandria in ancient Egypt. He wrote the Terra Biblos, which formed the basis of Western astrology, and was very popular. For over 1,000 years, it had about the authority of the Bible.
Whoa! That's saying something.
Round 4. Rosanna?
Yes.
What's the next degree between astrology and diamond?
Divination.
You just jumped right on that one.
Anytime anything sounds like it's remotely related to Harry Potter, that is my guess.
All right. Your guess of divination is correct.
No! No way!
Yep. I had to, Rosanna. I knew you would really want that one. So I let you have it.
You're such a good sister.
I know.
All right, Professor Trelawney, talk to me.
The word divination comes from the Latin divinare, which means to foresee, to be inspired by a god. So, divine.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the attempt to gain insight into a question or situation by way of an occultic standardized process or ritual. So, diviners read signs and events and omens, all through alleged contact with some supernatural agency. Divination, as you'd probably expect, along with astrology, is dismissed by the scientific community. And skeptics, they consider it superstition. In ancient Greece, you may have heard of the oracles.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the oracle of Amun was at the Siwa Oasis, and they were made famous when Alexander the Great visited them after conquering Egypt from Persia in 332 BC. They were heavily visited for military issues. Sometimes both sides would visit with oracles or seers, and they wouldn't go to battle until they had the okay from both seers. Oracles were conduits for the gods on Earth. Their prophecies were supposed to be the will of the gods verbatim. Because of that, they were in high demand and short supply, and so the ancient Greeks started seeing a lot of seers when they couldn't see oracles instead.
Mm-hmm.
Seers were not in direct contact with the gods. Instead, they interpreted signs provided by the gods, using lots of different methods. Bird signs, ecstaspy, which is inspecting the entrails of sacrificed animals.
Ew. There's a word for that?
There is.
Gross.
Interesting fact about divination. There were lots of Aztec gods, including central creator gods that were described as diviners and closely associated with sorcery. In particular, Tezcatlipoca is the patron of sorcerers and practitioners of magic. His name means smoking mirror, which is a reference to a device used for divinatory scrying.
Smoke and mirrors is what you say for fake magicians now. Interesting.
Yep. Every single civilization that developed in pre-Columbian Mexico the Olmecs, the Aztecs, they all practice divination in daily life. Round 5. All right, Rosanna, you ready to guess the next degree between divination and diamond?
I am.
Okay.
I am sort of.
Okay.
So, at one point, when you were talking about these, visions, things being inspired by the gods and foreseeing things, you said the word ritual.
I did.
And a proposal with a diamond ring is a ritual.
You're not letting that one go, are ya?
At some point, I'm going to get there because that's where it's going.
Okay.
But I feel like that's not the way you went.
All right. So what's your guess?
Well, the other stuff I wrote down is like oracles, prophecy, sorcery. None of that has anything to do with diamonds either. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to stick with ritual.
Okay.
Okay.
Your guess of ritual is incorrect.
Was it one of the ones I just said? Was it?
It was not.
Okay, good. Whew.
Does that make you feel better?
It does, actually.
The next degree is amulet.
Oh, I didn't even nope, missed that altogether.
Yeah.
Amulet. Oh, of course, amulet and diamond. Oh, for Pete's sake. Amulet, jewelry, stones, hello.
An amulet, or charm, is an object you typically wear on your person somewhere. Some people think it has a magical or miraculous power to protect its holder, either in general or from a specific danger. Think crosses and vampires. Amulets supposedly derive their properties and powers from magic. There are also some amulets that impart luck. Those are typically part of folk religion or paganism, like the Celts, who believed that four-leaf clovers symbolized good luck. Amulets, or sacred objects, the equivalent of mainstream religions like Christianity, are believed to have no power on their own unless they're blessed by a clergyman. And they won't provide any benefit if you don't actually believe in them when you wear them. So you can wear a crucifix all you want, but if a vampire comes to get you and you don't believe in it, the vampire is gonna get you. So, and amulets can be made out of all sorts of things. Statues, gemstones, coins, drawings, pendants, rings, plant parts, animal parts, and sometimes even written words in the form of a spell or incantation.
Oh, or like on Supernatural when they make a thing on the wall out of their blood, and then they smack it with their hand. That counts, right?
I guess. That's gross. Thank you for that mental image.
You're welcome.
So, I'm going to give you a bunch of fun examples of amulets in different cultures. In ancient Rome, sometimes they would use amulet boxes, which was a gold box intended to hang around your neck, and it contained sulfur to repel evil.
You repel everybody.
Pretty much. I think that's funny because sulfur is supposedly what it smells like in hell, but it repels evil. You would think that they would feel comfortable with that scent. The demons.
Smells like home.
In China, Taoist experts called Fulu developed a certain type of calligraphy. The calligraphy itself was supposed to protect against evil spirits. Writing in a certain font.
The demons are like, uh-oh, is that Helvetica? We out.
No, I'm sorry, I think you mean Comic Sans.
Oh, definitely out then.
The Lakota tribes from the Native American peoples wore ghost shirts to protect them from bullets.
Ghost shirts?
Yeah, I don't know what they were made of.
Was it Kevlar?
Oh, man. Oh, and if you're Jewish and not Christian, you can wear a Star of David or the Seal of Solomon around your neck to keep vampires away as well.
Really? That works for vampires, huh?
Really depends on the lore.
But I never thought about a Star of David, like, sort of on the same level as a crucifix when you're talking about vampires specifically.
Ah.
That's interesting. I mean, it makes total sense now that you've said it. I just never thought about it.
This one sounded kind of crazy. There's a necromantic amulet. It's called the Bang Nen Chin Athen, and that uses the bones or flesh of a corpse of a person who died unnaturally, screaming, or in other strange premature circumstances. They supposedly use this to reanimate the spirit of the dead, to stay within the bone as a spirit, and assist the owner to achieve their goals. So like a really messed up genie. The funniest one I saw was some Sri Lankan people believe that a jackal's horn can not just grant the holder all the wishes that they want, but it can also make them invulnerable to lawsuits.
I'm sorry. Lawsuits?
Yep, lawsuits.
Okay. I don't even have a comment for that.
It's very specific. Interesting fact about amulets. There was a rabbi and famous Kabbalist, Naphtali ben Isaac Katz. He was supposedly an expert in the magical use of amulets. He was accused of starting a fire that broke out in his house and destroyed the entire Jewish quarter of Frankfurt. And he prevented the extinguishing of the fire by conventional means because he wanted to test the power of his amulets.
Oh my gosh.
He was put in jail and forced to resign his post and then leave the city eventually.
Was there a lawsuit?
He didn't have that jackal's horn.
He did not have the jackal horn.
Round 6. Rosanna, this is your last guess. What is the degree between amulet and diamond?
Is it gemstones?
Your guess of gemstone is correct.
Woo!
I figured that one was kind of easy. A gemstone, also called a gem, fine gem, jewel, precious stone, or semi-precious stone. It's a piece of a mineral crystal, which is cut and polished, used to make jewelry or other adornments. There are some rocks like lapis lazuli, which is gorgeous, and opal and jade, and some organic materials that aren't minerals like amber, jet, and pearl. They're used for jewelry, and also considered to be gemstones as well, even though they're not actually stones. A gem maker is called a lapidary or a gem cutter, and a diamond worker is called a diamantaire.
Ooh.
It sounds like a made-up word to sound fancy.
Well, all words are made up, Nikki.
Fine. The traditional classification in the Western world goes back to the ancient Greeks, and it starts with a distinction between precious and semi-precious stones. There are also distinctions made like that in other cultures. The modern use of precious stones are diamond, ruby, sapphire, and emerald. All of the gemstones are semi-precious. There are some different additional treatments they can do to stones to change them in some way. You can heat treat them, which can improve a color or clarity. One example, most citrine is actually made by heating amethyst.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also, radiation can affect it. Almost all blue topaz has been irradiated to change the color from white to blue.
Oh.
Also, green quartz is irradiated to make the yellow-green color. Diamonds are irradiated to produce fancy color diamonds. And they occur naturally, but they're so rare. It's something like 0.1% of diamonds are fancy color diamonds naturally. Interesting fact. Gemstones are classified into different species and varieties. Corundum makes other kinds of stones. Ruby is the red variety of corundum. And other colors are considered sapphire. Now, the mineral species beryl is where you get emerald, aquamarine, red beryl, goshenite, heliodor, and morganite. Those are all varieties of this one species of mineral. And the Greeks greatly valued asteria gemstones, which are the star stones, like a star sapphire. They were considered powerful love charms, and Helen of Troy was known to have worn a star corundum. That's gemstones. You ready to learn about diamonds?
Yes.
A diamond is just the solid form of carbon with a diamond cubic crystal structure. It's really not that exciting when you break it down. Now, diamonds are renowned for their superlative physical qualities. Fine. I'm totally over diamonds. Diamonds have the highest hardness and thermal conductivity of any bulk material. Any material.
Wow.
And that's why most diamonds that are mined are used for industrial applications. Like cutting and polishing tools, making diamond knives. 80% of diamonds mined are used for industrial purposes.
Wow!
All right, Rosanna.
Yeah.
How old is your average diamond?
You mean like real diamonds or like made diamonds?
Real diamonds. Mined diamonds.
Mined diamonds. 1,000 years old?
Somewhere between 1 and 3.5 billion years old.
Billion?
Yes.
Billion?
That's your most of your, not all of them, but most of your natural diamonds are somewhere in that range.
That's crazy.
They're created by high pressure and temperature, so you get carbon-containing fluids, and they dissolve minerals and replace them with diamonds. And eventually, they're carried to the surface in volcanic eruptions and deposited in igneous rocks, known as kimberlites and lamprotes. The name diamond itself is derived from ancient Greek, adamus, which means proper, unalterable, unbreakable, untamed. 80% of the world's diamonds are sold, including auction sales, in New York City.
What? 80%?
Yep. Interesting fact about space diamonds. Who wants a space diamond?
Me!
When meteorites strike the ground on Earth, the shock wave can produce high enough temperatures and pressures for microdiamonds and nanodiamonds to form. And the Papagai crater in Russia may have the world's largest diamond deposit, estimated at trillions of carats.
Whoa.
And diamonds are rare on Earth, relatively, but they're really common in space. In meteorites, about 3% of the carbon is in the form of nanodiamonds.
Oh.
Which, while small, that's a big portion, because asteroids are pretty big.
Well, yeah, if you put them all together, that's a lot.
We've made it through all 6 degrees. We went from the planet Venus to night sky, to astrology, to divination, to amulet, to gemstone, to diamond. What'd you think of the spiral, Rosanna?
I like the spiral a lot, and not just because I got 2 of them right, but that helps. I like the spiral because there was enough but not too much science. And enough but not too much woo-woo out there stuff. It was like the perfect blend of science and woo-woo.
Woo-woo. It's time for Cheek of the Week. Our cheek this week is new reviews. We're doing 2 reviews today.
Our first review comes from Blake on Facebook. 5 stars. I really enjoy listening to this podcast and trying to figure out for myself what the next degree may be. And Blake is my very good friend who I work with and I have known for several years, and she's such a sweetheart. Thank you, Blake, very, very much for leaving a review.
Thank you, Blake. Our second review is from iTunes. It's from Olivia from the What's Her Name podcast. What a brilliant, unique idea. 5 stars. What a brilliant idea for a podcast. The hosts move through Wikipedia articles, 1 link at a time, trying to guess which is the connecting thread that takes us from one article to another. Such fun and a great way to provide context for 6 different fascinating stories each episode. I'm jealous I didn't think of this concept and can't wait for new episodes. This is such fun. That is a fantastic review.
Thank you so much, Olivia.
And check out the What's Her Name podcast. It's about women in history that you've never heard of, but should have.
That's our episode. Tune in next time for another 6 Degrees of Wiki. You can keep up with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6 Degrees of Wiki.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support the show by leaving a review, buying 6 Degrees of Wiki merch like t-shirts, mugs, and bags, or even by donating directly to the show at 6degreesofwiki.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.